My motivation for Poumatua was not only to help our iwi understand the importance and significance of our tupuna Apihai Te Kawo, but it was also to help the wider district of Tāmaki Makaurau, Auckland, understand that you people who talk about Logan Campbell as being the father of the city, Auckland, kai te he rawa atu. The actual father of the city was Apihai Te Kawo. And the reason Apihai Te Kawo is the father of Tāmaki is because Apihai had the mana, unchallenged and distinguished from any other rangatira. And it was Apihai who made the decision to reach out to Hobson to bring the government of the day that was based in Russell, e Kororareka, was to bring Hobson and his government to Tāmaki. And people don't understand that. Apart from the other wonderful stories about Apihai Te Kawo, I think people need to understand that if it wasn't for Apihai and his decision, and it was based on Hea Hate Hau, the kupu of Titai, but if it wasn't for Apihai to make the decision to bring those people here, we wouldn't have this bustling city called Tāmaki Makaurau. Apihai Te Kawo was a leader of his time, and I say that in a way that that Apihai is a son of Tarahawaiki, who is a son of Tupiriri. Now, I think there's a number of whakapapa elements in there which could cause the question, why was Apihai elevated in amongst his cousins? Because when you look at the 8 of them all lined up, there are those that have seniority over Apihai. But when you talk about a man for the time and a man for the situation, there was no one in that whakapapa that could have led our people through the challenges of the day except Apihai. And the reason for Apihai's elevated status was because he had the whakapapa. Apihai had the whakapapa above and beyond his cousins, some of his senior cousins, and even some of my own tupuna. Tāmaki Makaurau and Ngāti Whātua were going through a number of major changes and also responding to outside influences. And Apihai and his people needed friends. We needed alliances. And one of the key pathways to Apihai being able to undertake that alliance with his Waikato Ngāiwi Waiohua brethren was through his whakapapa. And so if you look at the whakapapa, Apihai's mother, Mokorua, she's the older sister to Te Tahuri. Some would say Te Tahuri is older. But Mokorua, she is a daughter of Te Horeta. And Te Horeta, he's a great Ngāti Te Ata chief. He is a prominent Ngāti Te Ata chief. And so Te Horeta is living at the same time as Tupiriri. Now it's my understanding that Te Horeta wasn't a part of the people who were hit by Te Tāu when they came through. It's my understanding that Ngāti Te Ata were to the side and that they weren't part of the Waiohua Ngāiwi Confederation that got hit and absolutely dealt to in those chapters of the Raupatu of Tāmaki. And so from Te Horeta, you pretty much get the main lines of Ngāti Te Ata coming out, particularly from his son Te Tawha. Now Te Tawha sits as a brother to Mokorua and Te Tahuri, and that's where your main key line of Ngāti Te Ata comes from. E ai ki a rātou kōrero. And so Mokorua provides her son Apihai with direct access to seniority, not only in Tāmaki, but through those Ngāti Te Ata and pretty much Waikato lines. And so you've got a converging of, whoa, some pretty fantastic whakapapa, down from Hoturoa, Tainui Waka, down from Tamate Kapua, Te Arawa Waka, and through a number of other key tupuna, also Huakai Waka, straight down into Mokorua and straight down to Apihai. Hence Apihai, whilst he lived at the time of Pōtatau, Te Whirowhiro, Te Whirowhiro, regardless of his own standing in Tainui and throughout the motu even, as a chief, as a warlord, as a well-known rangatira of the motu, Pōtatau had an understanding of who Apihai was. They were rangatira, chief to chief, rangatira ki te rangatira. And so that was the power of Apihai's whakapapa. Now, there were other rangatira at the time that lived during Apihai who had predominantly te tāu whakapapa, but that whakapapa there wasn't quite enough to bring in alliances with our Tāmaki, Ngāti Teata, Waikato people. Hence Apihai was called man of many cousins, tangata tiri whanaunga. In the first part of Poumatua, you've got someone, you, me, us. We're standing upon maunga whau. And I think that particular line, and if you imagine yourself being on maunga whau, you're almost Apihai, although there's discussion that it wasn't actually Apihai on top, it was probably one of Apihai's nephews or someone that had been given that mana to go up and represent him. But there was an instance on top of maunga whau during 1840, very early in 1840, where an individual, again we think it's Apihai but maybe it wasn't, stood on top of maunga whau and ka toro atu o na ringaringa, ko te ringa matau, ki taurarua, ko te ringa maue, ki opau tūteka. And so you had this motion on top of maunga whau, and that pretty much would be the tuku whenua that Apihai approved, that Apihai enabled. Now a tuku whenua is a really important tikanga within Māori society. Tuku whenua is kind of like, if you can imagine owning a whare, and you get a whanaunga who comes up to your whare and says, hey, I need a place to stay for a while. Well, ka tuku ruma. You give him a room, and you say, kapa, you can use the wharepaku, you can use the kitchen, you can hang your washing out, and then at the end of your stay, clean up your room, haere. And that's all tuku whenua was. It was an approval of an allocation of land. Now, the approval may have been to give payment to an outstanding debt. It might have been as a pākuha, as a marriage gift. It may have been for former people that you'd conquered, and that they were kind of asking, are we able to come and stay just over here for a while? Ai, ka tukuna he wāhanga mō koutou, he pito whenua mō koutou. But the understanding would always be that at the end of the use of that whenua would be returned, and that there were always inherent and embedded obligations within that. And so when you're standing on top of maunga whau e tuana ki te tehi o maunga whau, you're almost putting yourself in the body of whoever it was that said, yep, from that point taurarua to that point in opau tūteka, everything in there we're going to tuku to you, Mr. William Hobson. Hey. And so that was their first major tuku whenua. Now, that there is a huge action, because only the person who held the mana could approve that tuku whenua. Not some half-pai wannabe chief, not some fellow who's out on the periphery who don't have the tautoko. You had to be the rangatira. And Apihai was that. He was the undisputed rangatira who had the mana to approve that tuku whenua. And so when we talk about the weata, we're standing on top of Maunga Whau, and then we've got the waves that are crashing upon shore from the Waitemata, and we touch base with some of the past sites down in that, pretty much down in the town area. We've got a couple of areas too that we mentioned. Te Kūrai o Taurarua, well there it is, that little prominent area, I think it's called Resolution Park up there, but it sits above Parnell. And from there, Mātaiao e haere atu ai. So it'll be by way of the shoreline that I will make my way around to Poumatua. But on my way, I'm touching base at Te Oka, and Te Oka was a fish factory back then. It's where the bridge touches down on the town side, and so that's Te Oka, Erin Point. The Erin Point pools are up there, and so yeah, we'll drop into Te Oka, and then on our way from Te Oka, we'll carry along the coastline as we come to Poumatua. And what we're doing is we're basically laying out the footprint of that 3,000 acre block that was tuku'd by Apihai. But certainly Te Oka, Te Tō, and across over on Onewa, they form the gateway into the Waitemata. And because the Waitemata proper actually is the water, the body of water, which lay to the other side of the harbour bridge. Yeah, that's actually the Waitemata of old, as it used to be known as. But now we call pretty much everything out here Te Waitemata. The vibe of this waiata is one of ata celebration. He whakahihi I roto I tēnei waiata. Me whakahihi kātika. Engari ko taua whakahihi, he whakahihi ki te mana o tēnei tupuna. He whakahihi I te nui o te mana o te iwi, te rawa. Yeah, this has got a really celebratory vibe to it, and you know, it does hark back to Apihai and the people and all of the support at the time. But what I think it does is it really gives us a really firm idea as to the importance of Apihai, particularly in that watershed period of change, where you've got Pākehā life and culture starting to come into our area. And so Apihai was really key to not only bringing them in here as a friend for trading, to help, you know, benefit our people, but Apihai also, he was key in being able to set aside the cream of tāmaki, ōkahu ōrākei for our people, particularly in that Fenton hearing in 1868. And so the vibe is really up. It's really, it's one of being proud. There's a real elevation, I think, of our tupuna, but not only our tupuna, but also the presence and the position of our people, of Ngāti Whātua ki Tāmaki, of Te Tāu Ngāoho in particular, and Te Uringutu as being the three resident hapu of Ngāti Whātua here.